Hello again, and thank you for joining me on the Quiet Riot. Welcome if you are new here, and welcome back if you're returning. I'm Ainsley, and this is where we talk film, television, and media with an emphasis on older movies and nostalgic favorites. Today I'm giving you a little spoiler-free review of the 1970 thriller mystery film And Soon the Darkness. And Soon the Darkness is an English film released in 1970, and there is actually a 2010 remake, American and Argentinian remake, but this one is set in the French rural countryside. I watched this film on Shudder, so if you haven't seen it yourself and want to check it out, I do maybe recommend giving it a try. I ended up giving this film a 3 stars because there were certainly things missing, especially when it came to the thrill and suspense aspect of it. The tagline on the poster is, "Remember the way Hitchcock kept you on the edge of your seat?" And I would have to say that there is really nothing much about this film that alludes to any type of suspense or thrills that often exist within a Hitchcock film. Obviously, Hitchcock didn't always get it right, but I don't think the writers and directors got it right here as well, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. The film was directed by Robert Fewest, written by Brian Clemens and Terry Nation, produced by Albert Fennerl and Brian Clemens, and stars Pamela Franklin, Michelle Michelle Dotris, and Sandor Sandor Ellis. The film has cinematography by Ian Wilson and was edited by Anne Chedwigan with music by Laurie Johnson. And Soon the Darkness follows 2 English nurses who are on a cycling trip through the royal countryside of France when one of them goes missing, and one is left to try to find her and find what happened to her. She comes in contact with another man who is a bit mysterious, and she ends up learning some things that have happened to there a year prior. My personal assumption is that the title is alluding to the fact that it will soon be dark here in the countryside, and our main character, played by Pamela Franklin, is not a native here. She is not a French speaker. She's a native English speaker. She doesn't speak the language, and she's already in a kind of dangerous situation as she's there by herself. And now her friend has gone missing, and she has a relatively short amount of time to find her before it gets dark. That's my assumption as to exactly what the title means, but I don't know if it means something a little bit more personal to the characters in saying how everything will get dark once she doesn't know, or when she knows what happened to her friend, or that her friend is soon gonna go missing, though I definitely prefer and think that my first interpretation of what the title means just fits a lot better. I do think that could have been executed a lot better, as a lot of the thrill and suspense isn't quite executed, and while there are some elements there of what Franklin's character is going through while looking for a friend and the moments before the friend goes missing, I don't think as a whole the movie really did what it was meant to do. It just is pretty lackluster, and it's really slow moving, and that's not always a negative, and it's not always a negative here, but I certainly wish that things would have started a lot sooner, and that the fact that it's gonna get dark soon and that she has to find her friend, that there was a lot more urgency in that I just didn't feel while watching it. The film was shot entirely in France, and Soon the Darkness had the same production team as the television series The Avengers that was popular at the time. Brian Clemens and Terry Nation, who were both contributors on several ITC crime series, including The Avengers, wrote the screenplay. Clemens was involved in producing and storyboarding the film and said that this is what inspired him to try directing, and he actually wishes that he would have directed this film because he thinks it would have been a lot better if he did so. He later commented, My business partner said, "You should have directed it." And suddenly I thought, yeah, perhaps I should have. I knew I could have directed it better. The film did moderately well at the box office, but was not perceived particularly well. In 1971, the New York Times reviewer stated, "Until the disappearance, and for a while afterward, everything goes very well toward building tension with understated effects. But eventually, by mere repetition, the understated effects begin to look like poverty of the imagination. Then, terror became a function of gratuitous camera technique, and danger the product of dishonest characterization." I picked that one out. I was just going through some different reviews over the past few years, and then when I was just looking at Wikipedia of all places, I did see that review from the New York Times, and I definitely agree with what they said. It does start out in a really good place, and if it would build from there in a very uh, in a more honest way, in a more genuine way, it would have worked a lot better. But the way, I don't know how much I can blame on the script and how much I can blame on the direction, because you do have, when you write a script, something that builds and you need to use the narrative and obviously bring something to the character that the actors themselves and others involved know where to take it, but the director themselves has to be the ones that executes the story. And here I just don't think that execution was done very well. I do find the film visually impressive. From the beginning, we do get to see the vastness of the rural countryside, and knowing that once she goes missing, there's so many different places that she can be, and it can be close to her, and they could have gotten really far, and so you definitely get this sense. But I think as it went on, there was a lot more claustrophobia where there should have been more of focus on that vastness, and I think a lot more could have been done with making the choice to do wider shots and maybe even some head over shots to really show the true vastness of where they're at. I think that's something that always makes anytime you shoot in the desert, anytime it's in the middle of a nowhere where there's cornfields for miles, showing how much how desolate everything is and how there's not many places to go and run, and how much space there is between these little villages or these places that you can stop, and there's not a whole lot of people. There's not a lot of people who can have seen things or know things that were going on. And while I do think there may be a sense of everything's closing in on you as a person in this situation, I do think there needs to be a focus on her looking out. And I think that's where the ball was really dropped, and something more could have been done there in the film, and it just wasn't executed very well. And while I do think there's probably elements within the script that could have been done a whole lot better, particularly with certain characterizations, there was just too much predictability in regards to, oh, red herrings, which definitely happens in mysteries and is really hard to execute well, especially when you have such few people. I did really enjoy Pamela Franklin because I do like her as an actor, and I think she performed her role really well here because she has this very like anal uh, personality where everything is how she wants, and there's this and what I really liked how these characters butted heads, and they obviously want something very different, and it's them parting ways. Someone took advantage of that, and within that I do have some of my own personal questions, but um, those don't necessarily need to be answered as much as this truly being, I believe, more a moment of opportunity than what I'd initially suspected, or what can be suspected as a stalking of sorts. But I do think this was more a moment of opportunity. And a lot of the questions that you may ask in this are not answered particularly well throughout the journey of the movie, and the movie itself wasn't as an enjoyable a journey as it could have been for the viewer. I expected that I was going to give away a lot more spoilers in discussing this movie, but I feel as if I don't need to, because if there was a whole, if there was like so many more characters and so much more happening, I would want to dissect it a little more in terms of specific characters and situations and moments between the characters, but I really don't think there's a whole lot to dissect here. I do think that in terms of the characters, I wish that I I wish that I almost got to know the one who went missing a lot more. We did get to know a little bit about their relationship, and we did get to know her, but I don't know it because I did say that I hate I don't hate I just think that it could have been there could have been a lot more from the beginning, and I just didn't feel like the stakes weren't there, and things just weren't pulled together. And so it can be difficult to say, oh, this is what was missing, but I definitely feel the score could have been utilized a lot better, and itself could have been a lot better, and this was just a not a great execution, and maybe not a lot of great stuff to go on, and more trying to capitalize off an idea without
Capitalized off a specific idea and what was popular at the time without ever really bringing anything new to it or executing it in a way that's interesting to the audience. And it wasn't very interesting to me. I do know that there is people that likes this movie and there's certain aspects of it that I really did enjoy, but unfortunately this movie just wasn't for me. The slow burn aspect of it didn't serve the film very well, and there wasn't enough camera work, enough moments within the script that really made me truly worry and think that, oh, is she alive? Is she going to be found? Is she being held somewhere? So I wasn't really engaging with the film in the way that I like to as a viewer. And that is my problem with And Soon the Darkness 1970. As I stated prior, there is actually a remake remark of the movie, and I will be doing a versus for these, or at least I plan to sometime in the near future. And Soon the Darkness 1970 is available to watch on Shudder if you're interested. And if you want to watch the remake as well, it is available on Tubi, YouTube, and I think some other places for free as well. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video and listen to this audio right now. I accidentally wasn't paying attention and didn't delete some things that needed to be deleted. So that's why there's audio now. But I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. If you're returning, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. If you got to this moment and have anything to say on And Soon the Darkness or what you'd like to see on this channel, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.